Good morning, Trader Romps here. I'm going to run us through from a fresh chart a bit of a update with where Bitcoin's at the moment. We're going to go through just some higher time frame levels, putting those onto the chart, some volume profiles, some from the past, some recency, duration type stuff. And we get a little bit of an idea using things like volume profiles and that sort of thing where we're at, and get a little bit of a read on the narrative. So let's jump in. I've got Bitcoin here using Coinbase on the 1 month charts. The first thing that we're going to go ahead and do is look at the levels of relevance on the monthly. So we have a fresh monthly down here at the moment. So I'll just go through my templates and I'll make that a monthly level. Then I'm just going to control drag my monthly level up to this point here, and that's giving us a recency as far as our trading range goes. So what that means is pretty much all I'm looking for at the moment on a monthly time frame is price that will be bound between this level in here and this level up through here. Okay, everything else above only comes into play if we start getting actual closes and time and space above or below these levels here at the moment. Okay, so as well as that, that's our recency levels that we're currently looking at. Other things we could do is we could look at wash levels as well. So obviously we had this monthly over here. It did have a tap down here, but why this wash level in particular, which we'll add the word washed to here, the reason why this level is of interest is because there's so many wicks below this price action over in this area. So we'll go through and we'll just change the color just to make it a little bit washed out. So we can see that that is now a monthly wash level, which we had a bit of a claim of structure under. And anything coming in from lower than that, again, I'd be still looking for a bit of demand due to these wicks. So while we're sort of sitting on this time frame, we've got the actual price action range we're within. But if we go ahead and we add, I've got a shortcut down here to our fixed volume profile. I'm just going to go from the impulse to the impulse to capture. And first of all, I need to make sure, because it's fixed, we're turning that extend right off. I'm just going to bring this back to a normal standard color I use for sort of my higher time frame. And what we're looking at here is we have the value area high, the value area low, and the point of control when we were over in this area that roughly lasted 274 days. Okay, so there's a lot of price action being formed, a lot of volume being formed, a lot of levels being formed, and that is obviously one of the reasons why when we've come down into this area, we're yet again consolidating sideways, because there was so much interest and so many different traders and volume metrics and that sort of thing going on in the area. We can assume that it's going to be a deacceleration before there's reacceleration, or some sort of a bottom could go in around this area, because it was a large amount of time for traders to basically get acceptance to push higher from that level. So it's a point that we wouldn't want to see ourselves cut through, but we'd expect from a narrative point of view, some sort of rotation. So let's just bring out some lines down over here. And if we go off the value area low here on the monthly, and we can just sort of just style this however you want. I'm just going to go keeping it like the volume profile. I'm going to go and just put some similar size circles in. And I'm going to call this the 2024 fixed range volume profile value area low. Okay. And I roughly want to line that up, and straight away we can see what we're getting here is a little bit of interest is we didn't quite hit that level. Okay, so with rotation auction market theory rules, we get acceptance within a value. We're going to come down and we're going to touch it. So that itself is saying we could, clean up this not ideal low. If we look at a lot of the other sort of monthly levels, before they have some sort of reaction or some sort of a push, we generally get a lot of these sort of lower time frame wicks and price action. In this case, it's very sort of 2 weeks close to each other. So it's not really the kind of low that I would love to see going. Doesn't mean it can't go up. It could also be, in one way or another, narrative read a sign of strength, that the Sturmich limit orders down there, that the market orders, the selling dried up so much that they just couldn't push it any lower. Okay, so it sort of front runs, and in that mechanism, when things get front run and all of a sudden they start looking really good, the people who were waiting for that level to get swept, they start sweating because they've missed the entry, and they start loading in higher up in the supply points, get caught offside. It just washes backwards and forwards. Okay, so it can be a little bit of a play. It can put bottoms in as well. Anything can happen. So we're just going to be mindful of that. We can't just say, yep, that level has to get hit. Some people might be conservative and say, I'd rather get up higher if that level doesn't get hit, because I don't want to be a part of the chop in here and get my account washed out. So that's why I'm mindful of that level. I'm just going to make it a duplicate up to the value area high of this drag over here as well. And I'm just going to change that to the value area high. That's the 68%, 70% in trading view volume is within inside of here. So everything above that is obviously having that last little bit of percentage in there where we expect responsive selling to happen, and below is where we expect responsive buying. And just to mark it as well is we're going to come down and we're going to also put in the point of control from there. So I'm just copying it each time. I'm going to call that the point of control, and I'm also just going to color that line similar to the points of control I'm using. So that's just a little bit of a, now we have those sort of monthly level boundaries, and we also have the volume profile boundaries, okay, as well. So the next thing I'm going to do as well, while we're also on this monthly time frame, so I'm just going to use from here, basically over to this point, because I just want to capture most of the volume up there as well. And we're not quite up there yet, but if we do spring up in there, I want to be ready, right? I don't want to be flustered and wondering what the hell is going on if we have some sort of a short squeeze or something. So within here, we're going to call it the 2025. It's just the year in front, a bit of 2024. We're just going to call it just so we know what that is. Same thing, I'm going to bring this down here. We can already see that on the monthly, we did actually reject getting back inside to become rotational and discuss being rotational within this area, which we are within inside the value in the monthly levels. We actually did hit this and they said, no, you are not coming in. So because of that, we just need to be mindful of when we do get in there, we can assume that we become rotational at a higher point, and the current price action could potentially become a deviation of the low, and then obviously we can be rotating back up here higher within inside of that. So I'm just going to draw some arrows again. We know that on a price action and a volume profile, so going off this volume profile over here and here, going off this monthly level here and here, we know that we are rotational within inside of the volume, rotational within inside of the price. But if we do get some time and space within inside of here, then we play the same game. We become rotational in here, and we can sort of look at monthly levels and that sort of thing that will bound us and make us move sideways 80% of the time, sideways 20% of the time we're moving, we're moving up, So we're going to be just having a look at this higher time frame, and we've got this a little bit of an idea now. Now, the next thing I would add is I'll probably go to the lower time frames to start building out some more recency volume profiles. But if we just did one right now, the similar what we're doing, we've gone impulse to impulse, then we've gone impulse down to this area to capture the top part. And then if we're just going to, again, say from here or here, doesn't really matter. We're just going to go impulse down to impulse. And we can have a little bit of a look at what we've got for a more recency, some lower time frame stuff as well. I won't draw these levels in, but you see I've got it fixed. And we can see that we spent a little bit of time of responsive buying coming. And now we're in the lower part of this recent value area. And we can see the point of control is somewhat confluent with the old 2024 point of control. So we know there's a little bit of resistance up around this point here. So that's our monthly levels. We put a little bit of a fixed range volume profile in there. We can taper with it. We can add a few more with recency to try and get a bit more of a read micronized into the market. So the next thing we do is we drop down to the weekly, okay? Keeping these values pretty locked in. There can be a little bit of discrepancy exactly to where they go, but I just want to have them locked in for the monthly time frame traders. And now just from here, what we can start to do is we can just adjust these things a little bit more. So I just want to go basically from this top point down through here to this sell-off point down through here. It's just me moving it around a little bit. And before we go talking about volume profiles, let's just have a little bit of a look of our weekly levels now. So we come in and we can add our template for our weekly level, which I have not jumping out in front of me. Down the bottom it's moved to. And I'm putting a weekly level there. And then again, just for the extremities, we can move it way up the top with this old 2025 value area low. Coming in over here is where our weekly, so we know that that's going to be a high supply point. And we know that this old range up through here has a value area low just above. So we know this vicinity, if we get up there, is probably going to be a massive, massive supply point. So it would be good to take profits from longs and that sort of thing. But we're not up there at the moment. We're aware of it, but we're not up there at the moment. Okay. So what we do know is this point of control that I've drawn from this sell-off essentially, and I've cut it off right where we've consolidated underneath. We can just put our mouse cursor over and we can see that the point of control is holding us down, and we're getting a little bit of compression underneath this old value area low at this moment. Okay, so see a lot of wicks, a lot of demand coming in down through here. So there is a little bit of eagerness to get back above this point of control and back above this sort of point of control. We could adjust these levels down a little bit, not too phased. I'm sort of more looking at the recency, but I'm aware of sort of the discounts and the premiums of this old range as well, and how we're progressing back up through it and finding strength and that sort of thing. So the other thing I'd find in here is we have this weekly that came through here. It's been washed, obviously. And then we also have this weekly as well through here that's also been washed. So I don't want to clustered up too many weeklies. We can just know by doing this type of thing over and over, we know that this value area low is pretty much confluent with a bunch of weekly levels. And that's going to make sense because the responsive buyers are trying to get in, and the and within inside of this range is obviously where the most of the volume was. So a lot of supply kicks in here. We need to see if we can get back inside of it. We can accept it, and then this supply will be eased off, chewed up by that time, and we can rotate further back up through this value area. So I'm going to just go up this recent one over here. I'm going to put in yet again the weekly level, but I'm going to actually just say that this one's washed, but I'm still aware of it because, well, it's holding price down a fair bit. So obviously due to that, we need to know that this sort of area up through here, it's obvious because of the value area that we drew through there, the value area low will be a bit of a point that it's going to try and kick these prices down a fair bit. So I'm just going to come back down through here and say it's a bit of a wash level off there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go down and we are going to look at the daily level. Okay. So once that one there loads for me, the weather's playing up a little bit outside, so it's taking, I've got Starlink, so it's taking a little bit of time to load these. So what we're going to do now, though, is we're going to do the same thing, okay? So let's have a little bit of a look at zooming in and have a look at our main sort of, naked levels at the moment. So we've got this daily level up here. I'm just going to, when it's daily, I'm just going to, don't have any annotations. It means it's a naked level. We've got this level down here, but because it's washed, I'm not going to use it. I'm not really interested in that level down there. This level here has been washed twice. I'm sort of curious because of the wicks down around this area. So I still want to put this in as a daily level, and it's been hit twice. It's got a bit of a poor low, but because of the poor low, there'll be a bit of liquidity below it, relatively equal lows down there. So I'm just going to say it's washed, but I'm still going to have this one on the chart because I'm just curious where there's lots of wicks that build up underneath something. Can definitely be an area that wants to hold unless it's going to take these out and run down towards this monthly washed and monthly and weekly level right at the bottom of the range. But while we're above it at the moment, we can see this weekly has been holding us down a fair bit. But where is the most recent naked level within the vicinity for an intraday trader? It's going to come in right here. Okay, so we're going to just go back and we're going to say that this is the daily level. And from here, we have a little bit of weekend action through here, but I'm sort of more looking at, where this happened through the actual week with large amounts of volume. Through here, it can get pretty choppy because the weekends generally have low volume. I can still mark it, but for this is a daily naked. This is a daily naked up through here. And if I do come down and have a little bit of a look, you can see it's already been washed this morning. But nonetheless, we need to know that once this level closed here, this was, and I'll probably just call this, I'm going to say it's daily, but it was a weekend level and it's now washed, freshly washed. So because of that, I might just give it a little bit of a slightly different color, but for me, it's not a level as strong as say a level over here or one of these levels up through here at the moment. Okay, so we've got our main levels down. We know that where we can find monthly, we know where we can find weekly within inside of here, and then within inside of here. I just want to double check myself to see if there's any other weekly levels. Yes, there is one, which is down here. That's a naked level. So again, realistically, I don't really want price to come down here because if we're holding off a weekly level like this, and this weekly level should be similar. So our trading range now pretty much becomes in between here and here. Now, there's one more little thing that I'm observing and looking at the moment, and that is we have an inside weekly candle. Okay, so we have the range from this low, the range from this high, and we've had, I guess you could say, a sweep, maybe not, depending on the exchange, but nonetheless, we're traveling sideways with inside of the candle of this range. So what do we do there? Well, I'm not really interested in the price action of it because it's pretty straightforward to see we're going to take it the high or the low, but I'm more interested yet again at the volume. So all we're going to do is we're just going to slap a volume profile on between here and here. And then I want to extend that one right because we're within inside of it. So what we're going to do is let's drop down to a time frame that's more manageable, like a daily from here. And then inside of here, we want to extend that right like so. So let's pop back out to the weekly and have a little bit of a look again. Make sure we've got that in there right. Okay. And let's go to a lower time frame again. Let's go down to a 1 hour or something like that and have a little bit of a look at how this looks. Now, because we're going lower time frame, I like to just make it distinguished with a different color. It's going to let me do it. I don't know what it just did. Oh, I need to extend right again because that's how the template's saved. And so what do we have here? Okay, so this is still looking at some recency. I could put a lot more volume profiles in at the moment. I've got a lot of point of controls that are coming in from lower points. One more I do just want to put in at the moment, just to be clear on sort of the deviation or the failed auction, if it becomes a failed auction, meaning it reclaims this area. I could extend this to the right. And in which case, I'm going to get the point of control that I'm probably about to get anyway. But what I will do is I'm going to keep that there because that value area low is significant to me to get back inside of this range. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go from, for instance, where we've fallen through here because it's now a new area. I'm going to drag it across. I've got this blue one on that I want, and we can see a major point of control that comes through here. So realistically, if we're looking at duration, we're looking at a higher time frame or something. I don't want to see that loss. Now, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, a few 1 hour candles, don't care. But if I start seeing, daily, multiple days closing underneath that weekly level below where the value area low of the inside bar value area low, things are starting to look crook. Now, this is washed. We have a lot of built up liquidity of stop losses down here. We could become rotational with inside of the one I've just drawn in here. So it'd be failing this one, rotational inside of here. When we're rotational, we go back to the value area low. We can assume that because of this area here, there's not going to be crazy responsive bidding due to the fact of how it drops. So we could say this is where these levels here need to become the saving grace of the market. So realistically, I've got this sort of demand point down through here, holding up this big P-shaped profile, which I could put another volume profile in. It will get messy. Take my word for it. A lot of the points of control are just coming from here. So we're just going to use this one over here. Okay, so ideally, for my auction market theory, guys, when you come down, you build a big B-shaped profile down through here, and we get a decent amount of close and acceptance above into the previous candle if it's trend reversal or something. We start to test this underside, inducement. Then we become rotational, and all the offside liquidity or anyone who got out of the market chase higher. Okay, so for now though, we're at a pivotal point in the market, which is we're knocking on the door of here, but it's a really, really premium. So it's not an ideal place to be buying. That was for the lows, maybe the midpoint or something like that. But nonetheless, intradays can turn into swing trades and that sort of thing. So it's something that we're looking at is we've now got ourselves our daily area. We've got the levels and what they mean and when they were produced. We have this older volume profile that we know we need to get inside of. And we have the observation of that weekly as well. So we can start to look at, 4 hour, 1 hour and stuff like that to monitor how it's actually going, okay? So because of that, we're having a little bit of a look in here at the moment. We can see that this inside bar that sort of we've been rotational through coming into the third week now, we have a point of control quite high. So I really wouldn't like to lose that. We do have the overall range point of control, which I'd assume down to the weekly and the value area low is sort of a line in the sand. I'm not going to add VWAPs or anything like that because I want to keep this. It's probably already gone we've gone over things pretty quickly, but at the same time, I don't want to drag out too much. I know you guys are busy, so I just want you to be able to have a quick look at and see what I'm looking at. But ideally, this sort of compression action at the moment, we can see demand's really giving it some, and we know a lot of, from this high here, responsive selling, short positions are coming in. So we're really going to have an idea here. Is the bulls, are they going to be strong enough? Is the demand still going to exist? Are we going to short-term hold this this inside bar weekly point of control? Are we going to be able to push back up and shock everyone? Or are we going to induce? Are we going to spend some time in the earlier week potentially coming back to this daily level, probably going back to the point of control, chopping around there, and maybe putting some sort of a spring or accumulation spring down around the value area low and around this weekly level? We know the weekly levels lately have been giving really strong reactions. We obviously had one on Friday. We obviously had one this morning when we cleared out the weekend liquidity. Weekend liquidity, again, is if you go to the bottom of this right axis down here and you click, you can go session breaks. When you put your session breaks on, it's telling you where the dailies are. And with that, what we can do is we can look at how essentially what we've had recently is if we go between Saturday and Sunday's volume through here. Let's make it orange again, just so it's clear. And we'll turn that extend right. We want that off. And what we can see is even on a lower time frame to make this more obvious when we open today, we can see that we had the weekend, we had all of its value, the value area high, the value area low. And I'm just going to drag this over a little bit more exactly to where it closed, like so. So we can see the value area high, the value area low came through here, and we've already gone and mitigated, cleaned the entire weekend. So we got Friday, Saturday, cleaned it up, came back down, cleaned this area up through here, and generally that's the majority of volume. So I'm not really saying it has to clear the entire price action range. I'm looking more just at the volume, and that for me is a tick to say weekend's done. Now, something a little bit interesting about this as well that I do want to just bring in for a moment is if you look at something like Value or something like that, we look over the last month, okay? And I don't need to go through the actual chart. We can look at the last month down through here, and we can see that weekends have generally been green and weekdays have produced negative gains, okay? But just what the interesting thing is, if you go to the last week, we've got the weekdays producing green, and we have the weekend producing red. And what I'm trying to get to with this is what we have been doing, and I don't want to go through because it'll take me a bit of time, but it's basically been green weekends, red weeks, okay? But this time, there's a bit of a shift in conditions, sort of like a micronized seasonality. And what that is we actually had from here a red weekend, and that opens up for a green week, okay? So, and straight away we can see the urgency on open that we just boosted straight up to clear the weekend, because we've been doing the opposite. We've been having a green weekend, we've been coming down, we've been clearing the green weekend, and then we've just sort of been moping around and rotating and stuff. This time though, it's set up that we had a red weekend, so we push up to a green weekday. We might get the opposite where we at least rotating higher than the weekend, and in that case, we're at the value area highs, so we're getting above the premium. Even if it is sideways above the value area highs for a significant amount of time, we put some time and space in, we retest those levels and juice them later in the week or today, who knows, then we can move higher and potentially, if we zoom back out again, we can start to accept back inside of this older range. In which case, this is a deviation. Doesn't mean it's the bottom. It could just be putting in, if we're looking at seasonality, we could be in for another couple of months of only up to here or something like that, rolls back over, comes down and takes this low. But for my intraday traders, this is great kind of information, ways to think, ways to read the narrative of, at the moment, we are potentially putting in a failed auction below this area, and we get rebalanced inside of here. Law 2 would state that we move towards its point of control and potentially its value area high, which is there's a monthly defending it. Monthly levels can move, we can move through them a bit before we actually reject them, being a larger level. So that's just something to think about, you know. We either reject here, we come and take this low down here, we are at a pivotal point, but there's a few things leaning towards, if we are above here, you know, we've held this point of control, we've held that weekly point of control. If we can get above this value area low, then we look for a range expansion. We look for a larger amount of movement, less of this kind of clustered price action where it's been a vanguard of supply and demand hitting each other. So I pretty much just want to end there. I could keep going on and on and on, but if you do want to sort of learn this stuff, if you do, I do quite a few lives within inside of our Market Mastery community. So just send me a message. We can talk about that. But hopefully that's a nice little bit of a start of a week. Get you thinking about some things. Really simple. We're just using volume profile. We're just using some levels and stuff like that, and we're just getting a bit of a read on the market. And with those levels, we can sort of see how price digests. I have no idea where it's going to go. No one does, okay? So I'm not someone who's going to predict where it's going to go, but I'm ready. Level to level. If it reacts off that level, I take the trade. I take profits immediately if I find we're in a place of, you know, premium like we are now, and I'll leave a little bit on to run. And sometimes that little bit that runs is what really increases my account size. And I'm doing it all safely with tight invalidations and that sort of thing. So if you're interested in this type of trading, reach out and chat to me, and good luck in the markets.